Welcome to the premium Sunday night live Burn Barrel podcast.
Yep, we're trying to do these a little more often for you guys.
So, it's been an interesting weekend, I gotta say that. So, back to Jon Stewart, who is one of our Patreon people. Mm-hmm. Good job, by the way, John. He was on the Kirk Minahan show, and he did a great job a couple weeks ago. Hopefully he'll be on again soon. Yes, you too can be a Patreon person. You can watch this live. Which is, you get
really
to see
compelling.
A 345-pound man and a woman who's no more than 240 pounds all together. Really? That gets unchecked?
I'm not going to fact check you on it.
I'm just kidding. She's not. She's lovely. But I bring that up because my brother just texted me and said, "What's your last meal going to be?" Because we're going to fat camp tomorrow. And it's the thing that all the radio people are doing. It's the Awaken 180 deal. And so it totally takes over your life and what you're allowed to eat. And so I'm going to rock and roll Jimmy. It's my brother. Probably some pasta tonight in one form or another. That's my last meal. We went to a restaurant today and they gave us the 6.5 pounds of pasta. It was really good. Was that Mike's?
Mr. Mike's in Haverhill.
Mr. Mike's in Obi, Haverhill. And
I think that's Haverhill, not Plastow, but...
That is Haverhill. That's right. Yep. Mm-hmm. We had originally gone to the hen house because...
Steve from Merrimack told us to go there.
Lion Steve told us to go there, and we went there today, and they weren't open. They were opening up late at 2 instead of noon, or 11:30, whatever it was. And so we had to find a plan B. But the place does look promising. Okay. So, so we're doing that thing tomorrow. We don't have to talk too much about that. Especially since, whatever. Who cares? Do you care? Nobody cares.
Nobody cares. It's going to be exciting, though.
It's going to be
skinny.
That's, we'll see. Do I take it one day at a time or a bunch of days at a time?
One day at a time.
That's right, one day.
Let's take it one day at a time.
All right, so do you want to start, Alice, with hard politics? The Democrats are passing all this stuff. The Inflation Reduction Act. So they've been passing all of the amendments on that over for the last...
They've been having a vote-a-rama.
Exactly, and at least they've been staying overnight, and they're like bleary-eyed.
I actually like when they have to work a little bit.
Yeah.
Because mostly they don't do anything.
So what it is, it's a huge spending bill there and a tax bill. There's a huge corporate tax there. There's nothing the Democrats love more than vilifying business and citizens. And they're going to hire 87,000 IRS agents, which is unfreaking believable just to hear that.
And very telling because they were like, no, it's only to do more audits on billionaires. But the Republicans tried to put in an amendment that would have made it the extra audits only be on people making $400,000 and up. And they nixed that. So you're included. You get to be audited by the extra 87,000 IRS agents.
Yes, there's going to be tens of thousands of IRS people with nothing better to do than to be going through your finances, your tax returns, which is ridiculous, whatever. But I must say, and it's also inflationary. The whole thing is a mess. But I must say, was there another part of it?
Well, even Bernie said it's not going to do anything about inflation.
Yeah, it doesn't.
Of course, he means that because he wants the bill to have more junk in it. Like, what he wants would be even more inflationary, but whatever. Even he's, criticizing the bill.
So the Sunday shows today were largely all celebrations of the Democrats getting so much stuff done. And Biden having a good week, which technically he had. If you're a Democrat, this was not a week where he stepped on a landmine. This is a week where he killed the bad guy, the Al-Qaeda guy, al-Zawahiri, and the Democrats got to have Jon Stewart push around the Republicans, which was an optics problem for the Republicans. They should have seen it coming. They got this bill done. They pulled trickery on Mitch McConnell, whatever. So for Democrats, it was a good week. It's not a good week for the country necessarily. But
no, and I think in the long term, it will come back to bite them, just like passing a lot of their pandemic pork came back to bite them and stuff because it later caused all the inflation. I said this the other day too, but there was part of me that was a little sorry when Build Back Better didn't pass, not because I thought it would be good for the country, but because I thought it would be so terrible and destroy the economy so much that nobody would vote Democrat for a generation. And So that didn't ultimately pass, but it turns out that even the little bit that they did do was so destructive that like largely has come to pass anyway. And I think this is going to be similarly harmful to the country and to the economy in such a way that I think they're going to pay for this at the ballot box.
I think so too.
Sooner or later or sometime, it's going to happen.
I think so too, and I think that you just listen. You're going to hear in a moment the best case Democrats make for this legislation. They're also the Sunday shows are very excited about the Kansas abortion vote, which is a win for the pro abortion crowd, but it's not quite what they think it is. If you had a vote in Kansas that said absolutely all abortions greenlit at any time, that would also go down.
Right.
The view of the people in Kansas are a little more moderate, more in line with the American people.
Yeah. So in Kansas, any abortions after 22 weeks are already illegal. So this was to expand that more, to make more abortions illegal. And it wasn't even actually a specific policy, but it was to remove from the state constitution. The state constitution apparently has been interpreted to give women the right to an abortion after the point of viability in Kansas. So it was to remove that limitation. And so then the legislators could basically do whatever they want. I know people who are fairly pro-life who still say they wouldn't have voted for it because it would have turned this into like an ongoing issue where, the legislature would have gone too far, right?
Right. And this makes, it does give Democrats all over the country something to run on and something to be excited about.
But also people don't necessarily, and we know this like in our state too, the way people vote on ballot initiatives that are specific policies, yay or nay, when they have the power to actually control it, is different from the votes they take for people and for political parties that they are electing. It doesn't necessarily always pan out. Some of these ballot initiatives do somewhat have coattails, but first of all, the fact that this was on the ballot now doesn't explicitly means it's not then going to be on the ballot in November. So it won't have coattails for them in November. And secondly, we've seen this when we have these ballot initiatives, even in Massachusetts, where they're like about a tax or something, those will pass with good numbers, to say like, we don't want this extra tax, but people will continue to just vote in the same people who came up with the stupid tax in the first place. They don't actually always punish the people if they like their politics in other ways. And I think abortion is one of those issues where people do have strong feelings about it, but it doesn't necessarily mean who they'll vote for in the end. They vote on like more kitchen table-y kind of issues, generally speaking, for a party. Right.
And that's going to be the economy. And that's also it doesn't jobs report or not. It's not going to matter. The Democrats had a good jobs report, but that's also inflationary, and it doesn't.
Yeah, the tightness in the labor market just means that we're going to continue to see the inflation because the cost of everything that involves any kind of labor, which is anything, is going to keep going up and up and up.
So, so that brings. Oh, by the way, clarification. The Jon Stewart we gave a shout out to, who's listening to us, is a different Jon Stewart than the comedian in the burn pits who we just mentioned. Because we've mentioned two Jon Stewarts.
Right.
One is a listener and friend of the show in Minahan rotating third chair. One is a comedian out of New York City. I would say that the Minahan Jon Stewart, who follows us, is funnier than the other Jon Stewart.
Yes, he has two questions, actually. First, one's more of a statement than a question. He says that the parliamentarians stripped out a lot of the bill. This is true, including this thing with, the price of insulin. Like, they tried to stick a bunch more stuff in this bill, but it really has to be a budget bill because they're passing it 50-50 with reconciliation. So economists have then reduced the savings achieved by the bill. He also wants to know what your shirt is about.
Oh, this is...
Give me your Napoleon shirt, which is addressed in one podcast episode somewhere. Maybe we put that in the best of for the show when we're away.
Yeah, I guess so. Okay, and quickly, and these are available, by the way, these shirts. This is my favorite. Well, this and the Step-on Wife, So Cold. What's the Rudolph one? Did I wear it last?
Tough Going?
Tough Going. Those two, I think, are my favorites, I think. Okay, quickly, give me Napoleon. That was my finest hour, John. So what this was is that... Alice and I had matching Dunkin' Donuts some like chocolate drinks that had chocolate in the bottom of them, like this T-shirt kind of shows. And I finished all of mine, and so I wanted Alice's because I could see all the chocolate was in the bottom of hers. So I said, "Give me your Napoleon," and the joke being, she didn't understand what I meant. So I said, "Give me your Napoleon." Giving me your Napoleon. The joke
until he grabbed it out of my hand and just drank from my cup.
Exactly. I ripped it out of her hands, and right. And so the point is that "Give me your Napoleon" means, Alice.
He wanted the Napoleon bottom part of my drink where all the sugary syrup was stuck.
Right.
So.
Bottom part. Get it? And that is my high point. That was hit in 2013 probably, and I have been on a steady decline ever since. But that's my finest moment. That's it. That's all that's going to be in my...
So it's now commemorated with a handy T-shirt you can wear.
Yes, please do. That's going to be on my headstone. That's all I want on there. That's all I want. I don't even want the dates. Doesn't matter. All right. So I want to actually, and I found this surprisingly good. This is on State of the Union with Dana Bash, and this is Richard Blumenthal and Lindsey Graham. They're on at the same time with her. Now, they both sound a little drunk, and they've been up all night, but I think they both represent, listen to how Blumenthal represents the spirit of the bill, and Graham represent the facts of the bill. And I think this is really good stuff.
Senator Blumenthal, I'm going to start with you about this budget bill that is making its way through Congress. 3 independent economic analyses, including the Congressional Budget Office, all say the Inflation Reduction Act will actually have little to no impact on inflation. How is this bill actually going to help Americans who are having trouble paying for their groceries, for their housing, for their gas?
Great question, and thanks for having us in this bipartisan way. I think Americans are going to see the costs of their prescription drugs cut because of Medicare negotiations. They're going to see energy costs.
Remember, the question was, how does it reduce inflation? Which,
right,
of course,
because you guys named it the Inflation Reduction Act, which to some people would seem to imply that you thought it was going to do something to reduce inflation.
Exactly, which was a misstep on their part, because every single Sunday show put that to them because they had to, because you can't make the reporter look stupid. You can't have them allow that to go by them. They need to ask about that.
Cut because they're going to be receiving credits and rebates for energy saving and cost cutting measures, and they're going to see greater tax fairness because corporations that are currently paying nothing will have to pay at least 15%. We're talking corporations with assets of more than $1 billion or earnings of excess in that amount. So we're going to see costs of gasoline continue to drop, costs of necessities to decline, and I think Americans will see historic.
It also, I know that the branding is supposed to brainwash people and what's that called when you condition people into thinking, inflation reduction. But really, you're making guys like this lie. So, and it's tough stuff because, he's having to just go through this line of stuff that is not the question.
Well, yeah, and I mean, a bunch of groups came out, and specifically, it would be different if they called it the, Reducing Costs for Families Act, but inflation is actually a really specific concept, and It's one of the things they score bills for. So the CBO and all these other nonpartisan places and places that generally are kind to Democrats have come out and said it doesn't reduce inflation. Actually, though,
right? And I understand he's a politician and he's going to lie, and it's part of the job. But with a lie like this, where you're trying to get some people from the middle, people will notice. So that's why it's somebody, high-fived, I'm sure, in the meeting room, in the conference room when he came up with this idea. Mm-hmm. But that person is a dumbass. This is it's not smart to do.
Results.
Well, this is not the bipartisan part of the interview.
Lindsay.
So the American Rescue Plan, remember that one? That was supposed to make everything better. Well, it became a recession plan. This is going to make everything worse. I voted for a bipartisan infrastructure bill. I voted for gun legislation. I'm not going to vote for this. The minimum tax of 15% destroys expensing. Now, what does that mean? If a company buys a piece of equipment, they could expense it under the 2017 tax cut in the same year they bought it. That goes away. So CBO says it disincentivizes companies for building factories, buying equipment, which would help us get out of recession. There's a 16.4% tax on imported barrels of oil that are going to increase cost at the gas pump. Subsidies for Obamacare go to families making $304,000 a year, which I think is ill-conceived. And the bottom line, it's not going to help inflation. It's going to make everything worse.
One of the other.
So it's a better answer.
Yeah, because it's true. So
And
that
he
helps
started-
make it easier.
And Graham started his answer with, it's going to make everything worse. And what did he end it with?
It's going to make everything worse.
Exactly. And in between the meat are the line items.
Other things that the CBO, the Congressional Budget Office, said, Senator Graham, is that the bill would reduce the deficit. Republicans historically have been very focused on reducing the deficit. So why not support that?
It says it would reduce the deficit by $100 billion. We're going to spend almost $1 trillion. The truth is that the Obamacare subsidies go away after 3 years. Well, we all know they're not going to go away. So if they stayed in place for 10 years, it would add $280 billion to the deficit. So it's a gimmick. They've got a gimmick in the bill to limit the subsidies for 3 years that go to people who make $304,000 a year. This thing's going to make everything worse, and not one Republican is going to vote for it.
Well, I'll tell you one thing where I think we can agree it will make things better is the IRS is going to have resources it needs to go after the highest income Americans that are cheating on their taxes right now. And it will mean more revenue for the government. And frankly, cutting through all of the numbers, all of the CBO.
What is he thinking? to position that as what I think we're going to agree on is we're going to have.
What's going to be really popular is all the IRS agents.
People-
People love audits.
They
That's a big thing with Americans. They love the IRS bothering them.
There's nothing that brings a smile on somebody's face like seeing a piece of mail that says IRS on it.
Stuff. The average American sitting at their kitchen table deciding whether they can buy medicine, pay their mortgage, or go to the grocery store and get the food they need, they're going to be able to get that medicine much more cheaply. And overwhelmingly, American people want to cut the cost of prescription drugs. This measure does it through enabling Medicare to do what the VA does, what the Department of Defense does, negotiate for lower prices. And that will affect the entire course of inflation.
And I just want to bring one other issue that's in this bill.
And I don't agree
into
with
you.
that. But
go ahead. No, go ahead.
Well, number
Respond.
one, prescription drugs. This is price fixing. They take 15 drugs and they put a limit on what you can charge. That sounds good until pharmaceutical companies invent less new drugs. Remember COVID? Well, it was the American pharmaceutical industry that got us the drugs that keep us out of the hospital and keep a lot of us alive. This is price fixing. It's never worked before. It's not going to work now. Hiring 86,000 more IRS agents, if that makes you feel better, you missed a lot. They're coming after waitresses, YUber drivers, and everybody else to collect.
Style point.
YUber.
Yeah, there's no bueno, Lindsay. Somebody tell him that it's not
Both of
Uber.
them are like incredibly out of touch.
Yeah.
One of them's like, people love the IRS.
Yes.
And one of them's like, people who drive Ubers just.
More taxes. So if you
But it's a good point. They're coming after hairdressers. That's good.
Well, right, because they're coming for people. And I think the reason he brings up those two groups of people in particular is because those are people that have some off the books revenue that
Uber does? Uber
Well,
drivers?
potentially like tips and stuff. I think they probably have more trouble reporting their taxes accurately than like if you just work at a company.
Well,
and
the
get a salary.
hairdressers all went underground during COVID, and there was definitely
They
something
made
going on.
some cash.
I have no problem with that. I think it's wonderful.
think growing the IRS is good for you, you're wrong.
Do you want to respond or you want to move on?
I think the IRS is going to target the highest income Americans. As the saying goes, that's where the money is.
Was that written into the bill, though? No, they're going to be targeting whatever Democratic appointed hack tells them to target.
That's
Yeah.
where they're going to look to collect. The idea that there's going to be this army of IRS agents descending on the average American is just preposterous.
Well, it's just that it happens.
Exactly. I mean, 87,000 of them, each one can audit, I think, a few people a year, right? So if each of them audits like 10 people, then they're going to audit 870,000 people. Like,
I would love
not
to
enough
see.
super rich.
I haven't seen the specifics of the bill, but I would love to see how they scored how much revenue each of these people was going to create for the Fed. Because they must have somewhere in there said, each one will probably recoup, $6.7 million a year.
Fairness is what we need. And for the biggest corporation in this country to pay no taxes, for them to do stock buybacks that benefit the shareholders. But for example, in the case of oil companies, they are making 3 to 4 times what they did just last year. What are they doing with those excess windfall profits? Lowering gasoline prices?
Right. In 2 years ago, they took huge losses because government strangled them. It's like, give me a break. It's whatever. Anytime that the Democrats who set the tax rates, who make the tax rules, complain about excess profits. By the way, it's sweet coming from Blumenthal. He's got a lot of excess profits. He's a very rich man, but fine. That's fine. The left is trying to make a thing of Lindsey Graham's answer to Dana Bash on gay marriage, and it's wonderful. And I got to thank a listener of my WTIC show. A wonderful headline, which is just too good to be true. Listen to this headline. This is from Yahoo News. This is a Rolling Stone news piece. Lindsey Graham would like states to decide if LGBT people count as fully human.
Is that what he said exactly?
So let's listen to what he actually said. And man, that is, if he said that as a quote, that is a shocking quote. And actually, he probably will have to step down because that is amazingly shocking. Unless, of course, it's completely irresponsible horse bleep, which, of course, it is. So here is Lindsey Graham on this.
So, Senator Graham, another issue that is before the Senate is gay marriage. At least that is what Rob Portman wants. He's trying to get enough votes to codify same-sex marriage because Justice Clarence Thomas suggested that it might be in jeopardy. You said 2 weeks ago that the state-by-state approach is the best way to go. So I just want to be clear about your position. Are you saying that the 2015 Supreme Court decision that made same-sex marriage the law of the land nationally should be overturned?
No, I am saying that I don't think it's going to be overturned.
Nor should it be?
Well, that'd be up to the court. The reasoning, I think, could be attacked, but the point I'm trying to make is I've been consistent. I think states should decide the issue of marriage and states should decide the issue of abortion. I have respect for South Carolina. South Carolina voters here, I trust to define marriage and to deal with the issue of abortion, not 9 people on the court. That's my view.
How far down how wide should that go? How many more issues should that go to? For example, Loving versus Virginia that allowed interracial marriage. That shouldn't be touched.
No, so here's the point. We're talking about.
Here's the point. I would like states to decide if LGBT people count as fully human. And here's the point.
That's not what he said.
About things that are not happening because you don't want to talk about inflation. You don't want to talk about crime. This is all politics, my friends. Instead of trying to solve problems like unstable people having guns, we're talking about constitutional decisions that are still in effect. But if you're going to ask me to have the federal government take over defining marriage, I'm going to say no.
Okay.
There we go. So not quite what the headline said. Matter of fact, it seems absolutely reasonable. So, sorry for clearing my throat there. So the protester Alex Stein has a new video out where he is haranguing a Vice reporter. What's her name? Tessa something?
I think so.
It's a pretty name anyway.
Yeah, so she's at CPAC.
Exactly. So now he does the thing where he's taking a selfie video of him.
This is the same guy who harassed
AOC,
Tess Owen.
So this is the Vice reporter. You can tell the only one in a mask here. So how are you doing?
Just doing my job.
She's here trolling everybody here. So she's the only one here in a mask, and she's just saying negative stuff. I can't believe they let you in here. Do you feel like you're lying or sheep in the lion's den?
I have credentials to be here. So.
Yeah, so do I. But I'm saying, see, this is Vice, guys. This person, she's trying to troll this event. She thinks all of you guys are losers. So that's what she posts on the internet. She posts the most out of context stuff. See, Vice is the worst media company there is. They're all liars. So what do you think about your crappy media company?
Just do my job, and if you have a problem with me being here, you can take it up with CPAC.
I know, but don't you think Vice is a bunch of liars?
No, I'm very proud.
Oh, you're proud of, you know, you guys mainly talk about drugs. Are you a drug addict too? Like all the Vice content you make?
Too much, you know.
Guys, this is the Vice. Guys, this person, she's a loser right here. She's the only one in a mask. You see this? This is what a loser looks like. She's got her coronavirus. How many vaccines do you have? Are you on your 5th vaccine?
It's none of your business.
Oh, it's not? So why do you want to mandate them if it's none of my business? Are you pro-vaccine mandates? Oh, it's none of my business, but she's pro-vaccine mandates. Guys, you see this? This is what a
So he
Vice
kind of
journalist
follows her
looks
around.
like.
She's
She
trying
comes
to
here.
maneuver
This is
kind
what
of
a
out of
Vice
there, but
journalist looks like
he's
in her little mask.
haranguing her, and there are like 7 other dudes there. Alice, thoughts?
So I thought this was interesting, among other things, because there was a lot of there was a bit of a brouhaha in the press, let's say, because in Florida, Ron DeSantis just wouldn't give media credentials to a bunch of left-wing reporters.
Mm-hmm.
You know, what they call the mainstream media or whatever. They, you know, he just didn't give them to him. I think it was for the Sunshine Summit there. They just said, you can't come in. Like, see ya, we're not giving you credentials. We're only, because you'll come in here, you'll misrepresent everything we say and write negative things about us. And, you know, we don't want to have you here, you know, which is kind of their prerogative, I think, at like private political events. So, Christina Pusha actually tweeted about this thing that happened at CPAC, Texas. And she said, all I have to say is this debate around trolling journalists in real life is that media activists from publications like Vice should not be allowed into conservative conferences to begin with. They abhor us. Nobody on either side will get harassed if they just aren't allowed in. If it's so important that everyone sees what's going on, just live stream all the speeches and events, allow fair and balanced journalists to attend too. But I think that's the perfect answer to that. If this reporter doesn't want to get harassed, she doesn't have to be there. She's there to write bad things about these people, and they know it. Mm-hmm. So it's a situation that is just ripe for toxicity and negative things to happen, right?
I did totally disagree with you. I think that this is a thuggery by this guy, Alex Stein. I think it's a terrible look. There's a diminutive little blonde reporter who's trying to do her job. Yes, she's an a-hole, and she's got a mask, of course. But to harangue her, like, leave her alone, dude. It's a terrible look. People who in the middle will say, I don't want to be a Democrat because they're screwing up. They're calling this inflation reduction thing something that it is not, and it's whatever. And inflation, this sucks, whatever. And they look and they see some guy being an a-hole. I think that Mr. and Mrs. Everyday sees this guy as being an a-hole. And I don't know what you want to do. I mean, the media... And he's just harassing her. He's like, he's you know, he's kind of in her face, and it's a bad look. People who don't know much about politics will see this and say, "Wow, one guy's an a-hole and one lady's acting professionally trying to do her job." Yeah, she's right for Vice.
But what is her job? Her job is to go there and call them all fascists in her magazine and try and ruin their lives.
That's right.
So, I mean, like, it's, yes, he looks like an a-hole, but the truth is that if she could, like, get all of them fired by writing up who they are and what their day job is and whatever in Vice, then she would do that in a second. So, like, I mean, I don't think they're not justified in hating her. But that's the point. Shouldn't CPAC just say we're not going to have reporters that literally hate our guts in here?
No, I don't
Why?
think so.
Why? Why should conservatives, and conservatives have been too dumb about this and they need to get smarter, right? It's like, why do they invite every psychotic left-wing publication to come and cover like private conservative activist events?
Because you will, in the very least, get brand recognition up. And
I mean, sure, but live stream the event. They can write about the speeches the same like they were going to anyway. This is what Christina Pushaw told them when they were mad they didn't get credentials in Florida. She said, go do some elliptical or whatever and drink a margarita and then just write your hit piece anyway and go cry about it. Why do they have to be there in the event with people that they hate unless it's just to like catch people doing something?
I mean, that's what I'm sorry, but I believe in afflicting the powerful. I think it's a good idea. And yes, she's going to go talk about how they're all Nazis and this and that, and she's going to write a hit piece and this and that. But, I mean, people, first of all, can talk to her. Maybe someone will be quoted correctly. Maybe somebody can get more leverage when she writes her crappy hit piece, and they can tell the truth. If they could also record themselves being with her, I don't think. I mean, if you want to get rid of all the antagonistic media, then there just won't be any media at these events, and there won't be media passes needed. There'll be 8 people. The Daily Wire and Daily Signal and Daily Caller will all be there.
Right.
I mean,
well, Jon Stewart agrees with you. He says when Charles Krauthammer first went to CPAC, he was a liberal, and many voices are better. So, but yeah, I think that
but also, a reporter is once again about afflicting the powerful. Like, I wasn't a reporter, but I went to press conferences and I asked people questions. Mm-hmm. Like, I remember when I went to the Boston 24 one, and there's 3 of us there. We all were hitting Marty Walsh with questions. I wasn't there, although I was also a columnist, but my questions weren't made to make Marty Walsh look good.
Well, right.
I had a hunch, and I was sniffing around, and I was trying to, get at him.
Well, right. I mean, but this CPAC is not, the White House press briefing room or Marty Walsh's a press conference for a government official, right?
Well,
it's a private event.
Well,
you can have people there or not. If you feel like it's bad for your event to have reporters there that hate you, then don't have them there. I don't
see why you're not just. I don't know why this even is the broader issue. This is some a-hole who calls himself a member of the media as well, who's haranguing somebody. It's a
Well, how would you respond to people who would say that like Trump made this acceptable by calling out the media and pointing them out and calling them the lying press at all his rallies and stuff? Because I feel like that's where this comes from.
I have no problem with an elected official or a nominee from a party taking on the press and castigating them publicly. I have no problem with that. He's the subject that they're going to be writing about.
Well, so is this guy.
Well, he's not the subject. He might be now, but he's not the subject. He's just there being a sleazy assassin, just trying to screw with people. This was a browbeating he gave her, really. Well, she had to take it. She was surrounded, and it's fine. I don't think it's going to change her mind and make her write anything anymore. I get the feeling if we thought vitriol was coming before, and it's coming again. I don't see why like Trump needed to go keep talking to Maggie Haberman and having Olivia Nuzzi into the White House again. I thought that was idiotic to ever give them special access. But I think that you give them some access. I think that even if there's a huge hit piece, even if there's a hit piece that talks about the guy who pretended he was in Gitmo, Brandon Straka, whatever, and there will be, and there already are.
Mm-hmm. I mean, more than hit pieces, he's being taken back to court over it.
Sure. But what I'm saying is that that's at least exposing more people to the conversation. There are a certain percentage of people who will simply just read, somebody tweeted to me the other day when I said DeSantis is great, that he's taken away every single one of our civil rights. And so if somebody who ingests media like that, who thinks that that's true to come up with that platitude, they're not salvageable. They're not looking at enough media sources. But there are others who I think will look at this and say, like there are people like you and I who are curious and say, wait a second, is this really as crazy as we thought it was? So I think you should have the media swirling around. It's absolutely fine. I just think that this situation, this guy was haranguing people. And also,
but I mean, I think that the situation is set up by having reporters in there that that hate and are trying to ruin the lives of like the regular people there. Like not the big VIP names, but the people who are just there. Right? And I think that they do try and ruin those people's lives.
Well, maybe. Well, that's on the venue. If they're,
but I think they shouldn't have reporters in there that are going to do stuff like that. And I think that at this point, after the 4 years of Trump and the Trump campaign and everything that's happened, I think that you have regular conservatives who buy tickets to CPAC and go to hear the speakers and all this stuff, and they can feel the hate coming from these news people who come in and want to like interview the man on the street people and whatever. I think they know that these media people hate them.
Well, okay.
Because
okay,
it's happened now a ton of times when they depict them as morons and idiots.
You want to be
and
the group of
racist.
people afraid of the 5'4" blonde girl who's going to write mean things about you, and so you block them all out. I mean, that's a big story right there. First of all, if you when I worked at the newspaper,
I thought you liked it when DeSantis
when I
and
worked at
Bush did it. When she told the media to go cry about it because they didn't have credentials and whatever.
I have no problem with her doing that whatsoever. She's the press liaison. She is there to interface with those people. And that can go both ways, too. I have no problem with them going after her either. But
so
why... If you kick this lady out, the chances of there being...
Just don't give Vice a credential.
Okay. Well, then she's going to write the hit piece about CPAC anyway. And there will be zero quotes defending Vice. I mean, defending CPAC. There'll be zero anybody quoted whatsoever at all who might bring another point up. So to them, that just gives them carte blanche. Nobody spoke to us, so yeah, there were pedophiles, all of them. I mean, I used to talk to my editor about this all the time, about like whether or not you have to have like Trump should be having these daily pressers with Kayleigh McEnany, whatever. And his feeling was that it's always a good idea to have them because the paper's going to write the story anyway. So if you like boot the Herald or not this Herald, the old version of the Herald, if you boot the Herald from coverage, like they did with Hillary Chabot one time with on a Hillary Clinton event, they said no, you're disinvited the Herald. Well, that's fine, but now it's all the Herald side of things and nobody else on the other side.
Well, fine. I mean, but are we talking? If it's not a public official, then fine. Like, why do you have to be invited to every fundraiser for people that you don't agree with if you're totally antagonistic to the candidate? They don't have to invite you to their private events. You're not. They don't owe you anything, right? Like for like rallies and campaigns. I mean, sure, if you want to let them in, then great. But it's different to me when you're talking about a public official holding a press briefing or, giving a speech publicly as the politician themselves versus like, private fundraisers, private events, these campaign things.
Plenty of private fundraisers.
I know, but what I'm saying is like, why shouldn't CPAC be considered like that? It's really an activist group. It's not like a public thing. Like they don't have to give press credentials to everybody who hates them. They can give it to some of these like more kind of neutral places, even give it to CNN and the Washington Post. And
okay, but you realize that the CNN and the Post's stories are already written before they walk through the doors. They're just looking for a little color. It's already that CPAC is full of January 6th white supremacists, and Trump owns them all.
Yeah, so, I mean, but they're not as bad as, Vice is. Vice is just actually, activist. You might as well invite Jacobin to come and cover your CPAC event. It's just, you don't have to invite the absolute crazy lefties to come and write bad things about you and give them more fuel. Because there are whack jobs at these events. And
is it not a badge of honor that if you're a conservative, that Jacobin is lighting you up? That Vice is calling you a Nazi? Is it not? Aren't those all the right people to hate you?
I mean, You don't necessarily want to. Look at the stuff like James O'Keefe is able to get from like conversations they don't realize are being recorded and stuff, right? People say dumb things when they're not thinking that they're, that somebody's antagonistic to them when they're in an environment where they think they're like safe. People say stupid things and like get taken out of context and stuff. And you can do a lot with like quotes like that. They're going to try and wreck people's lives. Absolutely. I think they will. I mean, I don't know. I think it. I mean, obviously, I don't think he looks good yelling at her, but I think that the situation is inevitable when you have reporters who hate the people that are there wandering amongst them freely. I think that you start not giving media credentials to people that hate you, to your private events.
Well, okay, you can make the decision where you want it, but CPAC, I think probably the more the better. Okay, so now we have some decisions to make because we're out of time.
Okay.
So don't start talking about any of the other things because we're out of time.
Okay.
So we can either in the Patreon only set. So we're out of time for my stuff too. We're just out of time.
I know.
But your conversation, I kind of really like. It's kind of the one I want to do. It's very philosophical.
So why don't we
like twice.
Can we play the cuts that you want to play and just give a taste and then switch over and get into a more in-depth conversation in the
So
Patreon
your cuts,
show?
you mean? Your cut?
Yeah, did you have something too that you wanted?
Yeah, but we're not
going to
have time for both.
Okay, well, whatever you think.
We don't have enough time, I don't think.
Okay.
To get into it. Well, basically, you know what this is? I'll say it like this. So today at the gas station where I filled up my wife's car for her so that she could go to church, which we did change course, but once again, there you go for you guys yelling at me. I am circuitous.
He is a very nice guy.
Chivalrous. But I was at the gas station, and on the little gas station TV is Maria Menounos.
Oh.
Right. And Watertown's own Maria Menounos. And she's talking about some entertainment thing or whatever, and I thought, you know what, I remember years... Maria Menounos is kind of like the perfect version of what we're supposed to be. She's pretty, she's successful, she's famous. She's a local girl. She has all the right politics. She says all the right things. She has a nice smile, and she's doing all the right things. It reminds me of almost every. There's always a 27-year-old attractive, pretty person jogging named Katie in every town. And to me, they're almost always the same person. Mm-hmm. They're always good-looking. She's finishing up her marketing degree. She's got the right kind of car, had a Volkswagen Jetta or a Golf or whatever it is in her early 20s. Now has a better car and whatever. And she's doing all the right things, went to all the right schools, did all the right things, probably has Ukraine flag now, whatever, perfectly good American person. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, it's so utterly boring. I don't understand how to act around them because normal people are weird to me. I don't understand like how do you do everything? What's the right way? What are normal people? But they're always. It seems to me a lot of times they do everything a good solid B+ in everything that they do. Mm-hmm. But it's so boring. But are we a society where you're supposed to just be that good, solid B+? Do all the things, go to the right college. Now God is not a requirement.
Oh, yeah, no.
And then, and this gets to your cut, your quote, and then you're supposed to just spawn another one of you, facsimile right there, who did all the right things and had all the right cultural signifiers. And all right, I'll play your cut, a little bit of your cut, okay?
Okay, we'll give people a taste. So this is from a podcast I listen to called The Lord of Spirits, which if you're not religious, don't listen to it or if you're not into hearing about religion, don't listen to it because it's very religious. But this piece isn't very much so. But I thought this was just such an interesting take. I mean, this episode was about like Cain and Abel, so just to give you an idea of like how far afield this conversation went. But it's hosted by Father Andrew Stephen Damick and Father Stephen DeYoung, who are both Orthodox, and this was kind of Father Stephen DeYoung's wrap-up segment here.
Even a lot of the search for meaning stuff now has an undercurrent of this in it. that each of us sort of looks at our individual lives. We say, hey, I have this one life to live. That's what I've got, and I need to make the most of it. And again, most of us aren't crass about it, but we make the most of it because we want to be successful at something. We want to make a name for ourselves. We want to be recognized by others. We want to get our ego stroked.
Maria Menounos.
We want sort of money as a measure of that sort of success, and that we're doing well and we're doing the right things and we're the right kind of person. And we're willing to spend a lot of that money to make ourselves appear publicly, whether we're talking about clothes or whether we're talking about carefully curating our online profiles to give the right impression to everyone of who we are and that we believe and think the right things. And we're on board with all the right causes and we support the current thing. And all of this, we devote all of our time to this, right? And then at some point along the line, we kind of look and go, hey, I've spent my whole life chasing mammon. What's the meaning of all this?
Mammon is money, Alice told me today.
Like material wealth and all that, yes.
None of this really means anything, right? And it never did, right? And then we go and look for meaning. But what Christopher Lasch pointed out is that way of living life is very recent. That's not how most people in the history of the world, or even most people in the world today, live their lives. Most people in the history of the world and the world today live their lives, he said, like a thread stretched between their parents and their children. That their life is not this individual thing that belongs to them for them to maximize and curate and invest in such a way that it has an ultimately gratifying shape and result. Their life is a connection between the generation before and the generation after, between the past and the future.
So what I get from that is that they're living their lives as just droning. Maria Menounos has a Korea Menounos as a daughter who has Latia Menounos as a daughter, and it's rather pointless.
Yeah, and also saying that, I mean, I don't want to single out Maria Menounos.
No, I'm not. And actually, she might be the most spiritually wonderful person in the world.
I don't know anything about her.
I'm just using her as a template of somebody who superficially just seems to be perfect.
Yeah, but I think that, a lot of people who spend a lot of time and energy curating a lot of these social media lives, and I think a lot of us know people like this, or feel a lot of this pressure to be like this ourselves, to look good on social media, and not just politically, but like how your kids are dressed and that you all do the things. I started to notice a few years ago, like everybody all went apple picking at the same time, at the same weekend, and posted their cute pictures of them and their kids apple picking at the cute orchard. Like everybody's trying to have this like really nice looking life on social media and really nice looking life in the house they have and the car they have and the clothes they wear and everything, right? And that ultimately, like, that's about you and wanting people to think certain things about you personally. It's not really about the connection that you have between the past generations and the future generations. It's not meaningfully showing you your place in society to do that.
All right, we're going to continue this.
Okay, because there's a next snippet when he talks about, and you can go find the podcast and listen to it if you're really curious, but about how to cultivate like a more meaningful life in terms of connection to past and future generations. So we're going to do that in the Patreon show.
Chat is more profound.
Okay,
Alice,
we're going to do the chat though, I guess. Okay.
Tom, I don't know why you're treating your wife like this. This is Katharine Hepburn. I wonder why you call your wife a cokehead. I don't understand. Back in my day, men used to treat their wives with dignity and respect.
Thank you.
After all, she's like birthed 12 children.
Correct.
All right. See you later.
Correct. I'm not sure. I think Katharine Hepburn might have been a bit of a homewrecker, Alice. Spencer Tracy. You know what I'm saying, right?
I don't know that much about Katharine Hepburn, to be honest. She's seemed very nice to me, so.
Hi, Steve from Merrimack.
Well.
Quick comment here regarding the sound cut you guys played of that imbecile teacher who was concerned that the children were not taking the pronouns seriously. I think she's concentrating more on pronouns than she is the English language, because in my day, if someone had said to my teacher, my pronouns are banana and rock, I guarantee you every one of my teachers would have said, banana and rock are nouns, shithead. The pronoun for banana and rock is it. Do you want to be an it? Thank you.
Great point. It's a fair point. Good catch.
Yeah, although, and it's not grammatically correct at all, but neither is a plural pronoun, they. But also a bunch of young people now do these other pronouns. There's somebody in Melrose who has tree self pronouns.
Really?
So it's like...
Great. Good job.
So-and-so went to the store and tree bought tree self a cookie.
I can't.
Okay.
We'll talk about...
Hey guys, it's your buddy Dave from Florida.
Hey Dave.
Hi Dave.
I happen to be in your zip code for this past week with my family, and me and the wife had to go to a certain local store.
Uh-oh.
And
never going again.
There's only one store in our zip code.
My wife got a little creeped out.
Yes.
But all the gentlemen trying to help her find a tray. It was interesting, but it made me think of Alice's story. But
I'd forgotten about
other than that,
IPAs.
hey Alice, where can we find the good, Coke?
Alice?
I don't know where to find it.
Oh, come on.
I don't know where to
She'll
find
take
it.
that off. Like, she'll DM you on her Coke connection. I forgot about that. You were put off because everybody in the store hit on you, Alice. The Burdens of a Yacht Bunny by Alice Shattuck. My goodness, how must it be to be poor you?
Thank you so much. If you're listening on the Patreon live stream, stay right there. Don't go anywhere, because we are going to be back after this closing music to do our Sunday extra Patreon show. You can also always find us for free at burnbarrelpodcast.com and all the different places you listen to podcasts, as well as at burnbarrelpod on Twitter, facebook.com/burnbarrelpodcast. You can leave us a chat message or write us at burnbarrelpodcast@gmail.com.